We are not going to waste any time here. The Grammys happened last night. There's Chaperone to talk about. There's Doechii to talk about. There's Janelle Monáe doing Michael Jackson to talk about. But don't get it twisted. The big story is Beyonce. The group chat's here. They're eager to get into it. Let's go. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Look, it's been a long time coming. Everyone knows this. The Grammys know this. She was nominated in 2010 for Sasha Fierce, didn't win. 2015, self-titled album, should have won, didn't win. 2017, Lemonade, should have won, didn't win. 2023 for Renaissance, didn't win. Finally, the most awarded artist in the history of the Grammys has gotten her hands on the big prize. Beyonce, Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter. Rosie Decter is here. Pablo the Don is here. Carl Wilson is here. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm like a little too amped. I need to calm it down. I need to just dial it back a little bit. But Beyonce, finally, Album of the Year winner. Okay, welcome to the show. Thanks for staying up late to watch the Grammys last night. We're going to start, I think, with this story. We're going to jump right in because, Album of the Year, always a category of heavy hitters. I think this year particularly was quite stacked. You had Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Grammy favorites generally, Chaperone, Sabrina Carpenter. But in the end, let us start by giving the Queen her moment.
I just feel very full and very honored. It's been many, many years. And I just want to thank the Grammys, every songwriter, every collaborator, every producer, all of the hard work. I want to dedicate this to Miss Martell, and I hope we just keep pushing forward, opening doors.
That is Beyonce right there, accepting the Grammy for Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter. She said it's been a long time coming. She's not kidding. It is her first ever win in that category after a record 99 Grammy nominations in her career. She also took home Country Album of the Year yesterday. Rosie, I'm going to start with you, pal. How are you feeling about this moment, Beyonce finally getting Album of the Year?
I'm really happy. I'm amped like you.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I knew it was a possibility, but I wasn't certain. And I think Cowboy Carter is an adventurous, ambitious statement. It's got gorgeous songs. Is it her most immediately impactful album? Maybe not. Her most critically acclaimed? Maybe not. But I think, as you put it on X.com last night, Elamin, this is the Grammys making it right with the best working pop artist that we have, And I think she was long overdue for that award. Plus, we got to see Beyonce look genuinely surprised on live TV, which is a rare occasion. This is the most composed woman in the world, and we saw shock from her. So I'll take that too.
Well, look, we saw shock from her twice. Like the bigger shock was when she won Country Album of the Year.
Yeah.
And it took her a moment
sure.
to register that had even happened. You see this lovely moment where her daughter, Blue Ivy, is like, Mom, you won. It's time for you to get on the stage. Pablo, I got to ask you, considering everything that Beyonce's accomplished in her career, how important do you think winning this specific award is to her legacy? What message do you think this sends the Grammys as a whole?
I think to her legacy, it doesn't mean much to me personally as a Beehive member. In my mind, she has already won multiple times over. I understand the significance and the importance of actually giving her the physical award, and I don't want to devalue that moment. It was needed. It was necessary. But Beyonce was already Beyonce. Beyonce was already setting the standard. Everyone was already saying Beyonce is their favorite artist of all time before she received this. So this is a nice footnote. This is a nice have. This is a now you can't say anything about Beyonce moment, in my opinion. She has done it all. She's done everything. And as Trevor Noah said, she had 99 nominations, and Album of the Year is now one that she has won. So she has cemented it absolutely now, but before it was already cemented.
I gotta say, Carl, it would have been improbable to me that Beyonce should end her career without an Album of the Year win. That does not seem certainly she's nowhere near the end of her career by any stretch, but I just mean this idea, I think of if to use a sports analogy for a moment, Charles Barkley, never won an NBA ring. Barry Bonds never won a World Series. those are considered greats, but also it would have been nice to put a ring on it at a certain point. But then you get to Beyonce and the idea that she is the most nominated, that she is considered the greatest pop artist, maybe working right now, or maybe of all time. Like there's a meaningful question as to what this win does to the story of that career. So it was the feel-good choice, I think, for Album of the Year. Do you think it was the correct choice, Carl?
I mean, I think it was what had to happen. I mean, I thought that in 2023 as well, though. So, you know,
for
it could have not happened. But, you know, I think it matters to her simply in terms of recognition due. And, you know, you have to think of particularly, I think about the self-titled album losing to a very mid-Beck album and, you know, Lemonade losing to Adele, who herself was upset that that happened, you know? So I think those are the moments that, you know, there's just the scales needed to be balanced out. And as you said on X.com last night, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter to Beyonce's career in a real way, but I think it mattered to her personally. But the other thing is, it's just, you know, the Grammys have put real and sincere, I think, effort in the past 4 or 5 years to correct some of the deep syndromes that afflicted the awards for years and years, both in bias towards white male artists and in its bias towards established, old-fashioned, really ideas of musicianship that you know, are now like 20 years at least out of date. And so this Beyonce issue has become kind of a sticking point, along with rap still having trouble getting recognition in the major categories, which also changed last night. And so there's kind of a, you know, as a critic, at least personally, I feel some liberation from this narrative that has been going round and round and round for the past decade. And the idea that, you know, I can maybe hold my head up a little bit when people go, "You're covering the Grammys? Who gives a damn about the Grammys?" And I can be like, no, they're moving along, you know, and this is just another step in that direction. Yeah,
nobody would say they're moving along fast, but they're certainly like they're attempting to sort of like fix some of those issues that we've been seeing. Having said that, the moment that you mentioned when Adele won for 25 over Lemonade, you know, like the speech that Adele gave is like a speech that I can recite by heart, because we gotten used to that sight, like white artists going up on stage and be like, "Wow, thank you so much for this honor, but Beyonce should have won it." That has become like a regularly occurring, you know, thing over the last 10 years at the Grammys. So finally, you can kind of say, okay, that is a thing that we're free of in terms of the general legacy. So Carl just mentioned the idea that rap won in some of the big categories yesterday. I want to move on. Because 2 major categories, Song of the Year, which awards Best Songwriting, and then also Record of the Year. These categories, again, heavy hitters here. Good Luck Babe by Chaperone, you know, Espresso, a bar song from Shabuzi. But then both awards, Song of the Year and Record of the Year, went to this guy.
This is my neck of the woods that's held me down since a young pup, you know, since I was in the studio scrapping to write the best raps and all that, you know, in order to do records like these. So I can't give enough thanks, you know, to these places that I rode around since high school, you know, and most importantly, the people and the families out in the Palisades and Altadena. This is a true testament that we're going to continue to restore this city.
As Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us, winning Song and Record of the Year. Pablo, that is a diss track, pal. It's a diss track that won. It's a significant deal that a diss track wins this particular category. It's tough out here in Canada. You know, news of the terrorists over the weekend, and then Kendrick Lamar goes on stage and wins for a diss of a Canadian. And not just that, but wearing a Canadian tuxedo. Talk to me about the significance of Kendrick Lamar winning for this song.
I mean, first of all, you've got 1 more week left of adventures coming next week. Drake will again get his feet whooped with the Super Bowl coming up.
That's right. Kendrick is headlining the Super Bowl in literally 6 days from today.
Yes, but the significance is there. I mean, who would have ever thought that we'd be at this moment? But also, it's Kendrick Lamar, Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yeah.
Yes, we're at this moment. And also, I will never forget Drake getting up there, winning a Grammy, and being like, it's not really all about the Grammys. The Grammys said, this is our time to shine. Let's go ahead and continue embarrassing the boy. Let's go ahead and let this man sweep the categories off a diss track. I mean, the significance is just, it's Kendrick Lamar. You couldn't fight against it being Kendrick #1. The song was going to be great.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, we're embarrassing somebody who tried to embarrass us and rubbing it in so hard. And then we know that we're going to be the first layer of like a double layer chocolate cake when he comes next week and performs it at the Super Bowl, hopefully 5 times over. Like this is just nuts work right now. America has a problem. And his name is Kendrick Lamar against Drake.
It is unrelenting. I mean, like literally next week will be the Super Bowl. That's step 2. Step 3 is the tour. Like this man is taking a tour across North America on the strength of this one song. Who knew that hate can be so powerful? They tell you love is more powerful than hate. I'm not entirely sure that is entirely true anymore after seeing where Kendrick has been able to take his, like, I really just don't like him. I don't like this man. Yeah.
This is solidified that I will never stop being a hater for the rest of the year. Because hating gets you wins. Hating gets you wins now, so I must.
What an inspiration. The idea that hate gets you all the way to 2 major Grammys. He won 5 Grammys for that song yesterday, by the way. I got to say, Rosie, when you think about last night, the other big category we got to talk about is Best New Artist. That went to Chappell Roan. As expected, everybody's waiting for her speech because we know that Chappell's not going to hold back. And then she hits us with this.
Record labels need to treat their artists as valuable employees with a livable wage and health insurance and protection. Labels, we got you, but do you got us?
Rosie, biggest moment of her career. She steps up to the stage. She's got a notebook out. She's like, I'm not going to get any of these words wrong. And what she wants to talk about is health insurance for up-and-coming artists. That's what she wants to talk about. That is not the thing that I expected her to use her platform for. And yet it was just like, it landed so powerfully in a room that was like, whoa, that is not the direction we thought we'd go in. What did you make of her using her moment for that?
Yeah, I mean, I cried. I might cry again as we're talking about it. I was so moved by it. I'm an artist as well, and these are issues that are really, really hitting artists hard right now. There's a cost of living crisis, and the industry is really built on kind of you grind with no security underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was so meaningful that she used that platform to speak out, and she had it all written down in her notebook. She's taken some heat for sort of speaking off the top of her head, and she really took the time to say to herself, how do I want to use this moment? And she's speaking to, the powerful people in the room with her. That is a scary stage to say that on. We heard a lot of political speeches last night. A lot of them were really moving, but not all of them would have had, the people they're calling out in the room with them. And I thought that was so brave. And I think she just proved that she's the real deal,
It was a very lovely moment too, Rosie, because she literally put down her Grammy to be like, no, look, the Grammy's nice, this is great, but let me make sure I get all these words right, just to hold the notebook with both her hands. I also want to talk about, Rosie, last time you were on the show, we talked about how Canadian artists are having a bit of a hard time dominating the charts last year. How did Canada show up last night for you?
Yeah, a little bit muted, maybe. I mean, the biggest moment we had was The Weeknd making his comeback. He
returning to the Grammy stage after boycotting the Grammys for several years. Yes.
Yeah, so he'd been boycotting after he was snubbed a few years ago, I think in 2021. And they really sort of made an example of him last night. You had the CEO of the Recording Academy saying, we have changed so much that The Weeknd is willing to perform on our stage again. And then they brought out The Weeknd. And I think maybe they earned that moment in what we saw from the awards. We saw a real sort of shift in the kind of traditionalism of the Grammys and the awards last night. And The Weeknd was sort of the symbol of that. And then Canadians, we're not seeing Canadians winning the big artist awards this year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a trend going forward. Maybe it's an off year. But Canadians had big roles on Beyonce's Cowboy Carter, big songwriting roles. We saw Scott Zhang win for Best R&B Song. He wrote on SZA's Saturn. So that's a Canadian songwriting win. So we're behind the scenes, but we're maybe not out in front like we used to be.
Carl, that's a meaningful shift. The idea that you would shift, in terms of where Canadians might show up in these lists. We used to show up, we'd have 1 or 2 Best New Artists, we'd have 1 or 2 in the Album of the Year, Song of the Year categories. The idea that we're pretty present, but not in front of the microphone, that feels like a pretty significant shift to me, Carl.
I guess it is. I mean, it's also kind of a shift back to Canadians' traditional role in a lot of ways. It feels like we had a little blip in the teens where Canadians, often through sort of being more sophisticated about online presentation than a lot of people were, we kind of zipped around the system a little bit during that period of time. And I think the rest of the world is caught up, and Canada can't play that advantage quite the same way. And so we're back to being back there as producers and songwriters and, behind the scenes people. And that's really a place that Canadians have been for a long time. But, it'll happen. There'll be new people who will bubble up. It will happen. I think it's just, that wave of the teens has crested and faded back a bit.
You know what?
I blame Drake.
You know what? So does everybody, Pablo. That seems to be the going trend around here. If folks are just joining us, my name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and you're listening to Commotion. We are talking about the highlights of last night's Grammy Awards. Rosie Decter is here. Pablo the Don is here. Carl Wilson is here. Okay, we're going to get into the personal Grammy highlights, and we cannot talk about last night's show without talking about this.
So let's go. Take us to the I won't be complaining. Woo! 'Cause this love is power, power. From the post, don't stop till you get enough. Keep on. Post, don't stop till you get enough. Keep on.
Janelle Monáe moonwalking her way through a tribute to Quincy Jones last night. Pablo, look, that Janelle performance was like at the very end of this long, sprawling Quincy Jones tribute. And of course, Quincy deserves all the time in the world at that Grammys. It's kind of highlighting everything that he's done in his career, the greatest producer of all time. You get Cynthia Erivo, you get Stevie Wonder, you get Herbie Hancock, and then you end up in this moment. Janelle kind of finishes the entire tribute. What'd you make of the way that Janelle finished it?
Let me preface this by saying I really love them. They're great. I think they're consummate artists.
Yeah.
They should have multiple Grammys.
Yeah.
I do not think them doing the Michael Jackson tribute was the best choice. I think Janelle Monáe to me is more similar to a Prince tribute. If you want someone to do a great Prince tribute, call them. But last night, it just felt, the dancing was incredible.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show how difficult these songs Michael was singing is. It just, even someone as great as Janelle Monáe is never going to be able to fully encapsulate his legacy. But also, Quincy Jones, I think last night proved for a lot of people, especially younger Gen Z, he's touched everything from Frank Sinatra to jazz to rock music too. He's done it all. And you can't deny the gravity. And that was just a small snippet. That was 10, 15 minutes of his time. I don't know how many people knew he was the executive producer of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
It's honestly a legacy that you could never do a justifiable tribute to unless you gave it an entire special, which we should get.
Yeah.
Like, give it a special.
Yeah.
But I think in all, I'm glad that they did this. I'm glad he was the person that was highlighted last night. And I think hopefully there's more to come about Quincy. Just please, let's pick appropriate people to cover Michael Jackson.
I will say, Rosie, like the thing that I struggled with is that I didn't think they would include Michael in that tribute, which is to say, like, Quincy had done so much over his career, but I think the way we talk about Michael has changed over the last little while, and I kept on wondering whether, of course, Quincy and Michael, one of the most fruitful artistic collaborations of the 20th century. Having said that, the way that we talk about Michael changes, and I think, I wonder if this will have a place in the Grammys. And I think, like, to me, one of the ways of neutralizing the question about whether to have a Michael tribute at all or not, or a Michael section at all or not, is to get someone like Janelle Monáe, who can maybe steal the conversation because she is such a consummate performer, even if the vocals were, let's say, not Michael level, because it's hard to be Michael level. What do you make of the inclusion of Michael, Rosie?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Janelle took it in a different direction, and I think the dancing was the real highlight of their performance, and was such a kind of fun little surprise that you weren't so much thinking about how this was a Michael Jackson song. I do think that those songs are almost too big to be taken out of the pop canon, and I think it's different to have someone like Janelle doing that song, and in a tribute to Quincy, I didn't necessarily see it as in poor taste.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's sort of how it registered for me as well. Carl, this was one of your favorite highlights of the night.
You wanna guess the color of my underwear? You wanna know what I got going on down there? Is it pretty in pink or?
A room full of every Charlie XCX collaborator. They could have just grabbed one of them to get on stage. Like I don't understand what we were doing there. Charlie XCX bringing the endless Brett Summer to the Grammy stage last night. What'd you love about that moment, Carl?
Well, I mean, I think that we can't really say that the Brad Summer has been so endless. I think it came to a kind of distinct stop sometime in November. And
Touche.
so in some ways, you know, this is like a bolt from a more optimistic past. But you know, the way that it was staged was really beautiful in that, you know, because Charlie's always been this kind of insider outsider in
Yes.
pop, and symbolized by her starting that performance
In the
out
parking
the
lot.
back alley in the
Yeah.
parking lot of the Grammys, and bringing people in with her, and then culminating in this kind of 2000s indie sleaze rave on the stage with this rain of underwear. And you know, and there was just something so joyful about that. I totally agree with you that there were opportunities missed. Billie Eilish looked like she wanted to run out of
Billy's like, let me at it. I'm
crowd
literally on the
onto the
song. I
Yeah.
know my part.
Yeah.
it's just like, why is that not happening?
Yeah.
But you know,
Yes.
there really was, you know, Charlie lives in a slightly different reality than most of, like, she's not from the American music industry in the
Yeah.
way that dominates the Grammys. And it was nice to have a sense of outsideness happen at some point
Yeah.
during this show that was very, because of its LA focus, especially insiderish.
100%.
So I feel like there was a real breath of fresh air, although with some wistfulness about promises not kept.
100%. I want to get to Rosie's highlight. Rosie, this was a moment that really stood out for you.
I know that there is some black girl out there, so many black women out there that are watching me right now, and I want to tell you, you can do it. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Don't allow anybody to project any stereotypes on you that tell you that you can't be here, that you're too dark, or that you're not smart enough, or that you're too dramatic, or you're too loud. You are exactly who you need to be right where you are, and I am a testimony.
Come on, Doechii with the most incredible speech of the night. Doechii won Grammy for Best Rap Album, only the third woman to do so, a category that's existed since 1989. Rosie, why was that the moment that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, the combo of her winning that award and her performance in the Best New Artist medley, I thought she gave a powerhouse performance. You know, she had the outfit change, she had the choreo, she had the vocal delivery. It was all there, like firing on all cylinders. And she wins this award, and you watch her also correct herself in real time in that speech where she says 2 women have won this award, and then she goes, "Oh no, 3, I'm the third."
That's right.
And that was such a delightful moment. And I just think, you know, talk about zeitgeist. I think that she is the moment. She's got incredible storytelling. You know, she performed a song, Denial is a River, that's got no chorus, no real hook,
That's
you
right.
know? She's telling stories, and I'm really glad to see that recognized last night.
Pablo, I gotta say, I got like maybe about a minute left here, but look, the Grammys happened during a pretty nuts weekend for news, you know, between like this trade war kicking off, all these growing concerns about like Elon Musk's involvement with the new Trump administration. Or at any point watching the Grammys last night, did you go, you know, how can I possibly enjoy an award show with everything that's happening in the world? Or did it go the other way for you, where you're like, actually, I'm so glad this is here. This is giving me like the comfort that I need to cope with the world that is kind of out there.
Truly, I think Trevor Noah provided the balance. Like, he was the perfect guy to host this thing,
yeah.
and he made sure that we got a little bit of what was actually going on between the wildfires, trade wars, everything, the rolling back of DE&I, things like that, but also maintaining this is a fun experience. We're supposed to have fun. We're supposed to be able to let loose and enjoy ourselves a little bit. And I think that's where truly his like expertise shines, and why they keep inviting him back. He's the perfect balance of funny but realistic and talking about what's actually going on. It's not just an escape the night moment for all these celebrities to sit around each other and give each other hugs and kisses, and for us to watch as bystanders. It feels like it's inclusive of everybody, and that's why I truly think this probably was the best Grammys in a good 10 to 15 years.
Wow, the best Grammys in good 10 to 15 years. What a review. Okay, I love that. I got to leave it there. I appreciate your time, all of you. This has been a wonderful time. Thank you. Thanks again for the conversation. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Rosie Decter is a freelance writer in Montreal. Pablo the Don is a culture critic and part of Those Wrestling Girls podcast. They are in Springfield, Massachusetts. And Carl Wilson is a music critic for Slate. He's based in Toronto. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Listen, you should go find that Doechii performance. In the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.